Hey guys, how are ya? New style here in the new location. So let me tell you a story that it's an encounter I had with an art dealer, and he taught me an important lesson which I can confirm. So I went into this art dealer, and he was a third generation art dealer. And he brought out these cool books where him and his father would go down to New York City and buy up antiquities and bring at auction and bring them here and then sell them to rich people. And he had this is going back to the 60s, and he had like the books, the auction houses, I think it was Tiffany's or whatever it was. They would put out these high-end catalogs of the things that they were selling. And what he taught me in that conversation, he said, whatever you do, if you're going to buy artwork, you're going to have to buy the very, very, very best. Do not buy the B and C level artists. You got to buy the A artist. That type of artwork from the A level artist is going to hold and gain value, whereas the B and C artist never does well. Goes away, burns into nothing. And it's the same thing with where the art is from. And you have to buy the art, he said, from the apex countries. So I was talking to him how at that time, with the rise of China was becoming richer and richer. So Chinese antiquities were shooting up in value because Chinese had money all of a sudden. So they were buying up old Chinese, ancient Chinese artwork. So I said, well, what about buying Asian artwork from other developing nations, Asian nations, Vietnamese or Thai or etc.? And he said, no, it's not going to be nearly as good because they are not the apex countries. You have to buy from the apex countries. So that would be China, the US, the UK, that kind of stuff. So that was an important lesson. Now, related to that, I had a mentor back in the late 90s, and he told me, when you buy a suit, buy a very good suit. Never buy a cheap suit, because he said that the first day you buy a cheap suit, the first day it looks like a cheap suit. But, and the cheap suit will, because it's a cheap suit, it will look like hell after a few months. It would just, the material is not as well, it's not as well made, the material is crappier. So you're just going to get a really bad-looking suit in a short period of time. But even on the first day, though, a cheap suit's going to look like a cheap suit, he said. On the other hand, he said, if you get a high-end suit, the high-end suit will last much, much, much longer, and it will always look like a high-end suit. I can tell you the same thing for cars as well. You could have a 10-year-old Porsche. It's still Porsche, right? But you can have a brand new Honda Accord. It's still just a Honda Accord. Even though the brand new Honda Accord might be more valuable at that time than the 10-year-old Porsche. Capiche? A lot of people can't tell the difference between a 10-year-old luxury automobile versus a 3-year-old one. They can't tell. And in fact, after 12, 15 years, the luxury automobile can become a classic, start becoming a classic, and it starts going up in value, whatever that time frame is. So I found the same thing with furniture. I have very high-end furniture, Eames pieces, those are the main ones. Charles and Ray Eames, very famous designers. I'll show you one of the pieces. Here's this one of the pieces. Is a stool, and you put your feet up. You can use it to sit. You can use it as a coffee table. This is a very famous piece, solid walnut. Charles and Ray Eames. I have another piece from Charles and Ray Eames, the famous chairs. Actually, I got 5 or 6 pieces from Charles and Ray Eames. I'll show you one more here. Hold on. Here we go. This is a famous chair. Each one has got a serial. Very, 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 very highly regarded, timeless design. These pieces were designed rather, the 50s. I have several other pieces from these designers, originals, not knockoffs, originals. They have doubled and tripled in value since I bought them 10 or so years ago. Doubled and tripled in value. So I could get all my money back and easily double my money if I decide to sell these pieces. But because they're iconic pieces, even though I bought them years and years ago, they still look amazing. They're still amazing. They're still great pieces of furniture. So when you are building wealth in your business life, your personal life, there's always a balance of quality of life versus accumulation of wealth. There's a balance of spending money for fun and spending money for investment. Warren Buffett famously said that he never bought a fancy car until he was 60, because he said if he would have bought like a BMW when he was 40, it would have cost him millions of dollars, something to that effect, because he could have he could take that money, invest it, and make a lot of money with it. There's some truth to that. For me, I think you have to find a balance in life. You have to enjoy what you do, enjoy your life, but at the same time, you got to invest in assets that accumulate value. So if you travel to Indonesia and Bali and you do this amazing adventure, that's priceless in the sense of the experience, but all that money is gone forever. So you have to balance those type of expenditures versus investments. Of course, the better investments are stocks and bonds and other assets like that, financial assets, real estate. But there's also high-end furniture, or buying a very nice suit that can be used in business, right? You walk into a meeting and you got really nice clothes, it creates an impression. People are going to take you more seriously. By me buying these high-end chairs and stuff, I spent a lot of money on them initially, but right now they're worth much more than what I spent, and I could liquidate them pretty easily because they're super high-end. They are the A-class furniture. Now, I had made the mistake of buying designer furniture that was not cheap, but from designers that were not widely known. They weren't famous like Charles and Ray Eames, like the two pieces I just showed you. Not widely known. As a result, when I tried to sell those pieces in my recent move, because I was getting rid of stuff I didn't want, nobody would buy them. I had to sell them for way less than what I paid, because they were the C-level designer and the B-level designer. So, again, back to the original point of this video, buy, when you can and if you can, buy the best of the best, because they tend to just go up in value over time. Now remember though, when you are buying stuff, you got to remember that the values will fluctuate, so you got to be able to hold them for a long time. Another example is vinyls, LPs, records. I bought a whole bunch of records, but I didn't buy the B class. I bought Japanese pressings. Now, if you don't know anything about records, Japanese pressings are highly, highly regarded amongst the audiophile nerd community. Why? Because the Japanese pressings are consistently very high quality. The sound quality is consistently better than the same album pressed in North America, for example. So they're the most highly sought after. So I bought a whole bunch of Japanese albums 7-8 years ago, something like that. A whole slew of them. And I paid a lot of money, but guess what? Things that I paid $30, $40 for are now worth $80, $100, $125. I kid you not. I was just checking out a whole bunch of listings on eBay. I use that as my guide. I find big sellers, guys who have at least 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 ratings. You assume that these people know the market, and they're selling albums like I said, I spent $30 on or $50 on, and they're selling for double, triple, or more than what I paid just 7-8 years ago. So I put a little ad out there on Canadian Craigslist and Kijiji, and I got a whole bunch of people wanting to buy them. So not only have they doubled and tripled in value in the last 8 years, I have tons and tons of buyers for them. So I was just trying to grab a fly. Anyway, so there you go. I hope this lesson is useful to you. When you can, when you're buying, buy the top of the line. Same thing, they talk about this in real estate, right? We say buy, when you look at real estate, it's location, location, location. You want to buy in the best areas, the most desirable locations. Unfortunately, that can switch sometimes based on economic times. So for example, Detroit once was the powerhouse of American industry. But in the 80s and in the 90s, the powers that be basically gutted Detroit. And, the real estate just, you could buy city blocks for nothing. I think it's revitalizing a little bit now, but so that might be an opportunity there. I'm not sure though. That said, at one point, Detroit was like the epicenter of the American industry. So you got to be careful with that. But again, buy in the best locations. You're better to have a smaller place in a super prime location than have a big, huge place out in the middle of nowhere where nobody's interested in living. All right, I hope you find this useful, and let me know what you think of this new free-form format with the mic. I just change it up because I just feel like changing it up every now and then. You know what I find too? I find having this format like this, it just makes it more natural for me. I feel like I'm just having a conversation here rather than presenting something when I have a fixed mic. Anyway, you guys will let me know what you think about this style, and we shall talk soon. Bye-bye.